Good morning, and welcome to the Church of the River here in beautiful downtown Memphis, Tennessee. My name is Sam Teitel, and I have the joy of serving this congregation as minister. Right now, however, I am away. If you are seeing this video, it means that I am away on parental leave because my wife, Sandra, and I have had our first child. The worship service this morning will be led by a guest, by a friend who is going to be leading us in a wonderful service this morning. I am so excited to get to see you all again in person and to get to introduce you all to the newest member of my family just as soon as it is safe to do so. And Sandra and I are so grateful for all of the love and support that this community has shown to us and to our new baby. If you would like to learn more about the Church of the River and about what is going on in the life of this congregation, stick around after the video service today, and you will see information on your screen about how you can learn more and how you can get more involved. And if you would like to stay as up to date as possible on what is going on in the life of our community, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our worship service will now begin.
Hello, I'm Rod Starns, a member of the Capital Campaign team, and I want to talk with you for just a moment about one aspect of the Growing Brighter campaign, which we recently relaunched. You know, one of the things that makes the Church of the River so special is our location overlooking the mighty Mississippi. Church member Roy Harover, an architect who designed the building, said the location was fitting because, quote, the Unitarian belief in the order of the universe as revealed in nature. Or, as the authors of Memphis, an Architectural Guide put it later, the point of this building is to give itself over to its spectacular site. With glass windows in the sanctuary and the Mississippi River Room, we have an amazing visual connection to the river and to nature. Now, imagine how wonderful it would be to make that connection even closer, so that rather than just viewing nature through the windows, we could enjoy usable outdoor spaces in nature. With your support, we can make it happen. Imagine a new large deck extending out from an expanded Mississippi River Room. A deck with casual seating where you could enjoy a cup of coffee before or after the service, or gather on a Wednesday night shindig with a beautiful view of the sunset and then the light shows on both bridges. Now let's reimagine the existing patio between the sanctuary and the Mississippi River Room. With new outdoor seating and a way to quickly convert it to a covered space where we could hold outdoor events, receptions, and meals without worrying about the rain. And picture this, a path extending from the patio to a smaller deck just off the sanctuary. A gently sloping switchback path that would, for the first time, allow someone in a wheelchair or people who have difficulty with stairs to access the front of the sanctuary through the doors next to the pulpit. With your help, our Growing Brighter Capital campaign can make all these wishes come true. And if we raise enough money, we may also be able to finish funding the playground renovations, which currently is still short of our fundraising goal. These new outdoor amenities I've described are just a part of the overall plan that may end up being very beneficial once we're able to begin gathering in person again, as it will give us more space to gather outdoors and to social distance. Now, you'll hear more about other renovations and expansions over the next couple of Sundays from other members of the Capital Campaign team. You should have received a letter in the mail from Reverend Sam along with a brochure about the campaign and a pledge card. If you didn't get them, please contact the church office, or you can find them on our website at churchoftheriver.org/Capital Campaign. We'd love to get your pledge card back as soon as possible so we can begin establishing a firm budget. We're asking everyone to pledge as much as you can over the next 5 years. Now, you may want to make your first contribution before the end of this year, or you may start in 2021. We hope everyone will take part with a generous pledge so that even in these dark days of COVID-19, when we cannot be physically together, we can still begin the process of finding our way out of the darkness and start growing brighter.
We deepen into the spirit of worship this morning with these words from Antonia Bell Delgado. May we find the courage to revel in the experience of the mystery. May we approach the unknown with excitement, even if we can only muster a tiny bit. May we celebrate the curiosity that leads to searching. May we meet ourselves along the way and love us unapologetically.
This is the day that the Lord has made, and I will be exceeding glad. This is the day the Lord has made, and I will be exceeding glad. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I will sing my Maker's praise. This is the day the Lord has made, I will rejoice and give God praise.
Today, we're talking about mystery. And I have a story from the spirit play tradition that imagines mystery as a dragon. Once upon a time, there was a green and gracious dragon. The dragons lived everywhere, all the time. They were gentle and kind and loving and jolly. And they had a very special job with two parts. One part of the job was to give peace to grown-ups so that they wouldn't worry about their children when the children were out of sight or away from home, or even when the children grew up. Part 2 of the green and gracious dragon's job was to watch over the children wherever they went. The green and gracious dragon knew how to do both parts of this job because the green and gracious dragon could change into all kinds of happy places. And they did. They became wild, waving fields where children ran after butterflies, flew kites, or watch the sky. They became great climbing trees. They turned into rolling hills for hiking, looking out across the field, or even sledding in wintertime. They became great bushes that grew over into arches that made perfect places for hide and seek. And often the green gracious dragon would turn into a river, bending back and forth slowly, that might look like a snake if you could see it from above. Or sometimes this time of year into a pile of colored leaves for children to jump into. The green and gracious dragon could turn into all the places that children like to be. And they would be with the children, giving them all kinds of beauty and ideas. And even though the children couldn't see the dragon, they loved them anyway. And the grown-ups who knew about the dragon never worried about their children, because everyone knew that there would never come a time when the dragon fell asleep or ceased to be. I wonder if you have ever been to any of the places this dragon became. I wonder where else we might find the dragon. I wonder if you have special places where you feel safe. I like to reframe a chant that I love. It goes like this: there is a mystery holding us. There is a mystery holding all that we love. We rest in that mystery. You are beloved. You are important. You are powerful. Go in peace.
Our first reading this morning comes from a woman often called the patron saint of Unitarian Universalism, Mary Oliver. I came across this poem as I was reading this week and thought it was perfect for our time together. This is Mysteries, 4 of the Simple Ones, by Mary Oliver. How does the seed grain feel when it is just beginning to be wheat? And how does the catbird feel when the blue eggs break and become little catbirds, maybe on Midsummer's Eve without fanfare? And how does the turtle feel as she covers her eggs with the sweep of her feet, then leaves them for the world to take care of? Does she know her accomplishment? And when the blue heron, beaking his long breast feathers, sees one feather fall, does he know I will find it? Will he see me holding it in my hand? As he opens his wings softly and without a sound, as he rises and floats over the water. And this is just any day, by the edge of the pond, a black and leafy pond without a name until I named it. And what else can we do when the mysteries present themselves? Our second reading this morning comes from the poetry of Denise Levertov. She writes, "An awe so quiet, I don't know when it began. A gratitude had begun to sing in me. Was there some moment dividing song from no song? When does dewfall begin? When does night fold its arms over our hearts to cherish them? When is daybreak?" I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer. God of all we cannot know, draw near to us this morning and hear the words of our hearts. We have much to celebrate this morning. Sometimes the greatest blessings of this life are found in the unexpected, in things we couldn't predict or plan for. The shocking pink of a sunset after a day thick with clouds, colors splashed across the sky, a reminder of the messiness of creation. We hold in our hearts this morning all the ways we have fallen short or failed to live into the promises that guide our lives. We are heavy of the memories of ways we have failed to love one another, ways we have held things too tightly. We have kept them close to our chest. We have tried to control that which is not ours to control. Spirit of life, help us to trust in the great mystery. Help us to keep going, even when it's hard. Help us to notice where gratitude begins to sing in us. And abide with us now and in all the days to come. Amen. We come now to the time in our service where we ask for your gifts to sustain the ministries of this church. Please be generous as you're able. Instructions for giving will be printed on your screen in front of you. We are so grateful. We planted a garden this year, even though I never thought we would be gardening people. My husband has joked for a while that he has a brown thumb. It was experimental, really, and a few weeks ago we harvested our first kale and arugula for salads. It felt so good to pick something we'd grown ourselves and then to eat it. The garden started out as something to do, kind of a random idea I had towards the end of the summer, just to see if anything would grow. It was really a way to distract from all that was happening around us. If we couldn't control much else in our lives, at least we could control this little tiny patch of our backyard. Soon we expanded to become composting people, despite my protests. Growing up, my dad composted almost everything, and I wasn't prepared for that level of commitment in my kitchen again. But I was wrong about the composting. Kyle keeps calling me out to the backyard to see his compost pile. There always seems to be some new development, something else to wonder at. We're already planning what we can do with our garden in the spring. And of course, this same wonderment has expanded to all lawn care processes as well. He has often quoted the rather crude Hank Hillism to me. Why would anybody do drugs when you can mow the lawn? But in all seriousness, new life is taking root and old life breaking down in the same little postage stamp yard. A cycle at work before our eyes, we trust in that which is forever unfolding. And in the words of Mary Oliver, what else can we do when the mysteries present themselves? One of my first days working with Sam, he asked me to choose a theme for our November worship services to use while he was away. As I thought about that time of year, I remembered the days getting darker, the beginning of the end of the year, and the move toward the holiday season that can be complicated for many, most especially so this year. My intuitive self felt the mystery of it all. Much has changed since that conversation. I didn't preach last month because not too long after Sam's diagnosis, I also found out that my husband and I had COVID. I'm rested and well now, thanks to church staff and guest preachers, but I will absolutely admit it was scary. For anyone going through it now, you're not alone. I am holding you in my heart. The election has also taken place amidst major anxiety, and now we wait to see what the next few months will hold. We know now that our country is more divided than many of us had thought. Though the path ahead is uncertain, we are prepared to keep organizing and working for change, no matter what. For such is our promise to one another. This week, we return again to the mystery of the shortening days, of the beginning of the end of the year, in which time has become almost meaningless. This year that has broken all of our hearts in different ways. And we might wonder, or at least I do, where do we go from here? I've always felt that the time between Halloween and New Year's Eve is the most transformative time of the year. The shortening of the days means more time spent in the dark, cuddled with a blanket and a good book and a candle. It means fires in the backyard and lots of warm foods. Cultures throughout the world believe that this time is when the veil between the human world and the spirit world is thinnest. And during this time, we remember those we have lost from this life. We carry them with us in the beating of our hearts and in the memories we turn over and over in our minds like photographs in our hands. Especially as we get closer to Thanksgiving and later Hanukkah and Christmas, the loss of loved ones feels more and more real, whether the loss is fresh or not so fresh. And of course, there is the added strain created by COVID. We cannot all be with those we love during these times, even as our hearts long to be together. Please know that you are not alone in struggling. We're all experiencing this in some way. We miss our families, even those we usually don't get along with. There are layers to the ever-present grief we are holding. I was talking with Bert and Carly the other day during our weekly reflection meeting. He shared with me that in his time providing premarital counseling, he used to advise couples that they need not know or understand everything about their partner. Instead, they need only bow before the mystery that is the other. His words brought a smile to my lips because they're evergreen with sparks of truth for romantic relationships, family, friendships, and others we hold close to our hearts. This idea of bowing before the mystery of the other, of honoring, conjured in me a feeling of humility, a feeling of knowing that there is more at work than we can understand, a letting go of trying to have it all figured out, and approaching life and one another in a spirit of curiosity. For when we remain curious, we might make space for a gratitude to begin to sing in us. We often try to change or manipulate that which we cannot understand, but sitting with the unknown is an ancient spiritual discipline across religious traditions. I won't claim that it's easy though, for with mystery, with all we do not understand, comes some fear. We as humans try to understand a lot of things. It takes something both majestic and terrifying for us to admit that we do not have all the answers. Hear these words from poet Padraig Otuama that speak to that. Some days it feels as though I stand on a thin plank of plywood over a vast abyss, bracing myself for it to give way. What happens when we fall into mystery? Do we float away forever, unmoored? Or are we cradled in soft dark and swirling stars? This is the core dilemma of my spirit. Is all we do not know nothingness or everythingness? Is mystery empty or full? Terrible or beautiful? Terrible or beautiful? Of course, the mystery of this life can be both terrible and beautiful at once. We do not understand much of the suffering that happens on this earth, and we understand even less the suffering that we cause one another. But often, in our worst times, there are little windows, however tiny, through which we can see the beauty. For what else can we do when the mysteries present themselves? The natural world is my first language for the divine, one I think we can all enter into, and its images and textures provide springboards for the mind to wander. The grip of a tide, the sharp edge of a cliff. With these majesties of creation, there is awe mixed with fear. Mary Oliver reminds us that naming is a way of bowing before the mystery, both of the other and of the divine. We name that which calls us to awe. Both Oliver and Levertov's poetry challenges us, the reader. They call us to curiosity, to wonder at the mystery of our own lives and of the divine by whatever name we know it. I discovered Levertov's poetry while in divinity school, and last spring, while leading virtual worship services without my usual library, I loved opening my familiar worn hymnal to her poems, knowing that they would tug just right at my heart. I was held in her voice that speaks across time, like the night holding us in its arms. And I wonder if this is also the way we are held by the mystery that is this life. As I was writing this week, a memory kept popping up again and again of my mother that I want to share with you. It is Sunday morning, around 6:30, and I can hear my mom coming up the stairs. I've just opened my eyes, awakened by the sound of her movements, and I can tell by the way she is tiptoeing up the stairs, trying to be quiet, that she and I are the only ones awake in the house. I'm sure she's been up for a while and is coming from what we always called the library, her home office where she writes. I know she's been working on her sermon. Friday is writing day, and Saturday night is writing time if something has come up, if meetings and appointments have run on too long. But I know that no matter what, on Sunday morning, I will always find my mom out in the library, going over her words for worship one last time. I try to go back to sleep, but I can't. Like her, I am an early riser by nature. After a while, I hear the whoosh of her blow dryer and smell the slightly burnt scent of hot rollers heating up. My mother is softly singing one of her favorite songs. I believe in love and live my life accordingly. Think I'll just let the mystery be. These words are those of Iris DeMent, my mom's favorite singer, whom she refers to simply as Iris, a woman from the Arkansas Delta whose wailing voice carries with it both the pain and the beauty of her roots. This is spiritual time for my mother. She modeled for me from an early age that the day begins with some time alone to connect to song and story, to ground oneself. She is out the door before my sister, brother, and I are out of bed, and she comes in to say goodbye before heading down the road to the church. We arrive later for the 11 o'clock service, right before the bells ring, calling us to our seats. The organ music begins, and I see my mom slowly moving from pew to pew, greeting everyone, just checking in. She kneels down to talk to a little boy who hides behind his father's leg. She makes her way over to us and lays her hand on my dad's shoulder. Good to see you guys, she says warmly, and she moves to the next pew. Soon the music stops and my mom does a little jog from the back of the sanctuary all the way up to the pulpit. The service begins, and soon we are singing together. One of the reasons I come here to this place to worship. When I hear all of our voices join together, a part of me is lifted. Even as a teenager, the weights of the week feel washed away from my body. The worship service is a dance in a way. I watch my mom move forward and back, forward and back. She moves forward again, this time for her sermon. And like many I've heard, she begins with a story. I remember it being one about my family, as was typical of her sermons when we were younger. I've tried and tried, but I can't remember what it was about that Sunday. But what I do remember is that watching my mom in the pulpit on that regular Sunday, I felt called to ministry. I felt a pull, almost like a magnet toward metal, powerful, mysterious. But there was fear there too. I could not imagine a world where I could speak from a pulpit. And so I put the thought out of my mind. I buried it down deep and let it sit for years. I would revisit it from time to time until it became clear that this mysterious calling was one I could no longer ignore. This mysterious calling that felt both beautiful and terrifying has guided my life. Part of the mystery is learning to trust that which we do not understand, to lean into our callings without knowing what comes next. And then there's also the mystery that Iris sings about, what comes after this life. The song feels like it could have been written specifically for UUs as it leans into all the questions and doesn't give us an answer. Iris is our teacher, calling us to let the mystery be. We UUs think we're pretty good at sitting with the mystery, but I will say that this year has tested me. I'm someone who rarely has trouble sleeping, and I consider myself lucky in this regard. But there have been times this year that I've woken up breathless at 3 a.m. for no reason and also for all the reasons. It's harder to bow at the mystery when life is mysteriously hard. Howard Thurman, at the end of his spiritual autobiography, With Head and Heart, which I really recommend to all of you, by the way, shares these words both on mystery and mysticism. The years, the months, the days, and the hours have flown by my open window. Here and there an incident, a towering moment, a naked memory, an etched countenance, a whisper in the dark, a golden glow. These and much more are the woven fabric of the time I have lived. No one shares the secret of a life. No one enters into the heart of the mystery. So, with all that said, we are garden people now. And in the spring, when the world will surely look different than it does right now, we will till the soil, spread the compost, and plant the seeds. We will make careful rows, holes in the dirt with our fingers for the seeds to live in. We will trust in the mystery that blooms from somewhere down deep, one bud at a time. For what else can we do when the mysteries present themselves? Amen. Friends, as you go forth from this place, may you trust in all that is beyond your understanding. And may the mystery that is this life envelop you in its arms until we meet again. Amen.
Study